August the 1st, 1990. The Italian Senate, Rome. The Prime Minister of Italy, Giulio Andreotti, rises to address Parliament. What he is about to say has never been said before in any Western Parliament. It will not be said again, at this level of official confirmation, in any other country. And it will change, permanently, what the world understands about how the Western Alliance operated during the Cold War. He confirms the existence of a secret army, a network of stay-behind paramilitary units established by NATO after World War II, operating in secret across Western Europe. Hidden weapons caches buried in the countryside. Trained operatives living double lives. A shadow infrastructure, unknown to the public, unknown to most elected officials, designed to resist a Soviet invasion that never came. Its code name is Gladio, the Latin word for sword. It has been operating for 40 years, and some of its units, according to investigations that will follow, have been involved in terrorist attacks against the very civilians it was supposed to protect. My name is the voice behind Creepy Chronicles, and this is the channel's first global investigation. The first case that takes us beyond the borders of Britain and into a story that spans 16 countries, 4 decades, and one of the most significant confirmed cover-ups in post-war Western history. Operation Gladio is not a conspiracy theory. It is a confirmed government program, confirmed by the Italian Prime Minister in 1990, confirmed by parliamentary investigations in Italy, Belgium, and Switzerland, confirmed by declassified documents in multiple national archives, and confirmed by the United States State Department, which acknowledged the existence of NATO stay-behind efforts while denying knowledge of any illegal activities. What is confirmed, what remains disputed, and what has never been fully explained. That is what this investigation examines. To understand why Gladio was created, you need to understand what Western Europe looked like in 1951. World War II had ended 6 years earlier. The Soviet Union now controlled Eastern Europe from Berlin to Bucharest. NATO had been established in 1949 to provide collective defense against Soviet expansion. But NATO planners faced a specific and terrifying problem. If the Red Army swept westward, and in 1951 that was not considered an impossibility, conventional military resistance might last days, not weeks. Western Europe could fall. The answer was stay-behind networks. Secret paramilitary units, recruited from former resistance fighters, intelligence assets, and trusted civilians, who would remain behind enemy lines after an invasion. Their mission, to conduct sabotage, gather intelligence, coordinate with NATO command, and maintain an armed resistance until the alliance could respond. The networks were established in coordination between NATO's Clandestine Planning Committee, National Intelligence Services, and the CIA. In Italy, the network was called Gladio. In Belgium, it was known as SDRA-8. In Germany, the Bundesnachrichtendienst coordinated its own version. In Britain, MI6 was involved in the establishment of a network whose details remain more classified than almost any other country's equivalent program. By the early 1972, the network covered at least 16 countries, including every NATO member and several officially neutral states including Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, and Austria. The weapons caches were real and physical. Buried across the European countryside, in forests, farmland, and remote hillsides, were sealed containers holding weapons, ammunition, explosives, and communications equipment. Some caches also contained forged documents, civilian clothes for operatives going underground, and in some cases poison and other materials whose purpose in a defensive resistance operation was not obvious. When Swiss authorities accidentally discovered one such cache in 1990, the same year Andreotti made his confession, it triggered investigations across the continent. Country after country found evidence of networks that their own governments had established, funded, and then forgotten to disclose to their citizens, their parliaments, or in many cases their own ministers. The Belgian network was confirmed by a 1991 parliamentary inquiry. The Swiss network was confirmed by a federal investigation. The Italian CFAR document from 1959, classified for 30 years, confirmed that Gladio had been operating with the support of NATO and in close collaboration with the CIA. And then there is the question that hangs over the entire Gladio story. What did the networks do during the Cold War? The official answer is that they were defensive, prepared for an invasion that never came. Dormant, largely, through the decades of relative peace. And there is evidence that for many units in many countries, that is accurate. But in Italy, the evidence is more disturbing. Italian investigators and parliamentary commissions have examined whether Gladio-connected networks were involved in what became known as the strategy of tension, a series of terrorist attacks carried out in Italy during the 1970 seconds and 1980 seconds, designed to create a climate of fear that would shift Italian politics away from the Communist Party and toward the right. The strategy was explicitly about manipulating democratic politics through violence directed at civilians. The most devastating single event linked to this strategy is the Bologna Massacre of August 2nd, 1980. A bomb exploded in the waiting room of Bologna's main railway station. 85 people were killed. More than 200 were injured. It remains the worst terrorist attack on Italian soil in the post-war period. Italian courts have convicted members of the neo-fascist organization Nuclei Armati Rivoluzionari for the bombing. Those individuals have been linked, through court proceedings and investigative journalism, to figures who were also connected to the Gladio network. In 2007, an Italian court named a former senior intelligence official in connection with the attack. The full picture of who ordered the bombing and why has never been officially established. What Western governments have admitted and what they have denied tells its own story. The existence of the networks, admitted. The coordination with NATO and the CIA, admitted. The weapons caches, confirmed when physically discovered. The original defensive purpose, confirmed. The involvement in terrorism, denied by every government. The CIA has stated categorically that any suggestion of US involvement in terrorism is based on Soviet disinformation. NATO has not publicly commented on the terrorism allegations. The Italian parliamentary commission that investigated Gladio in 1992 concluded that the network lacked justification even in its intended defensive role, and that its secrecy created risks of deviation that had not been adequately controlled. Commission President Libero Gualtieri stated that the network had gone beyond democratic control. Beyond democratic control. Those are the words a parliamentary investigation used to describe a NATO-coordinated program that operated in their country for 40 years without their knowledge. Why does Operation Gladio matter in 2026? Because it is the most completely confirmed example of something that this channel has been documenting across 16 investigations. The capacity of Western governments to build, operate, and conceal programs of extraordinary scope and impact over decades, without democratic accountability, without public knowledge, and sometimes without the awareness of the elected officials who are supposed to exercise oversight. The Cold War is over. The original Gladio networks were officially disbanded in the 1990 seconds. But the institutional habits that produced them, the instinct to operate in secret, to classify what is inconvenient, to deny what cannot be defended, those habits did not die with the Cold War. This channel has documented them in operation in Britain. Operation Gladio shows they were operating across the entire Western alliance simultaneously. Creepy Chronicles investigates the cases the official record would rather you never examine too closely. Every Thursday and every Sunday, real, documented, told without apology. Gladio means sword. Gladio means sword. The Western alliance built one in secret, buried it across 16 countries, and for 40 years it stayed hidden. Some of what it did in those 40 years is still classified. Some of it always will be.